you turn around, there's nothing left at your table.
Gone. I feel like I help them to do wrong. So.
Is that they just need to cut one time perfectly and then know how to hide the other three. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Ugly Wood Company Podcast. Your host for today, Glennard
and Nicole.
So what are we going to talk about today?
So today we are going to talk about our
nicest customers.
Yay! Okay, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3.
Okay, since we are going to talk about our nicest customers today, maybe just to set a bit of context, right? So since 2023 to 2024, every single workshop has been led by myself, Glennard. So I have been the main instructor for all of our workshops from the very, very beginning. On the other hand, right, Nicole, she will join us every time where classes get too large. So for example, more than 4 packs. Or when there are specific kind of requirements or kind of photo taking or video taking required. So she really comes in more as an assistant
Videographer
and videographer kind of person.
Yeah.
So based on your, I would say, like limited experience, about maybe 5 to 6 classes, how have you found our customers, generally speaking?
I think as the title shows, I think everyone is quite friendly to get along with. Oh, like there were a few times when, okay, so there are some times when he has a workshop, I will just hide in the room because I don't want to be seen by the customers. But there are times when I come out of the room just to go to the kitchen or whatever, and I will sometimes stay and I just talk to the customers as well.
Like chit chat lah.
Yeah. Like during their breaks, we will just have some chit chat sessions. Then so they are just very curious about what you do, why you get into this. And I think also they are quite curious about what other. Okay, I don't know whether my impression is wrong or if my memory fails me, but like I remember people asking you about what other customers have requested you things for. Wait, does that sentence make sense?
Are you saying like what
do
projects?
other people do, or like what other projects do you do?
Oh, what other projects do you do? Okay,
The sentence structure that's out the window.
Yeah. That is quite a common question.
I think they are quite like enthusiastic also.
Yeah. So I think right off the bat, right, one thing that we did not expect was that everybody who came in to our workshops, and we really meet every single person, they are always curious and enthusiastic. So they may have different levels of energy. So some people might be kind of more reserved, more introverted, more chill, more cool. And then some people are kind of like very excited about everything. Regardless of their temperament, right? They are always very interested in the subject. And I think that is something that is very precious to me. Because it is, having done kind of a corporate job in the past, right, where I had to do a bit of training, it's very obvious when someone is there just for the sake of being there. They are there just for the sake of taking attendance, for the sake of like some free gift. So back then when I was doing my corporate job, I would always get a lot of briefings or a lot of just kind of chit chat advice about how to manage, how to keep the enthusiasm level up and all that. But,
when you did. Oh, like that time when you did the facilitator.
Correct, when I was doing facilitation and training back in my old job.
So
knowing, having that experience, right, I think when we first started, I was mentally preparing myself to kind of be the hype man for myself. I was doing a lot of kind of like just like mental exercises just to keep myself and the group excited and high energy. But to my lovely surprise, everyone was very enthusiastic. Everyone was very curious about the pieces that we were doing. They would ask a lot of questions. Sometimes I think we once had a run through, right, where I wanted to kind of teach Nicole. I wanted to kind of convey all the different instructions that I would give during my classes. It ended up being where the speaking part, all the tips and tricks were longer than the actual woodworking itself. Yeah, because there were so many things that people would ask us that we cannot say everything at once. It would just be information overload.
Example?
So from the start, right, we always come into the workshop where we always talk about the variety of wood. We always talk about kind of where the wood comes from. So just for a quick answer, all the wood that we use in the workshop, 80% of it will come from Singapore, and then we have about 20% coming from the region, so like Indonesia that produce plywood, or Europe where they produce kind of more premium birch plywood. So we can talk about the source of the wood, we can talk about like the origin of the wood, we can talk about the different types of wood. Think about hardwood, softwood, open pore, closed pore. We can talk about grain direction. So there's a lot of things we can talk about just even before we touch any object, even before we touch any tools. So all these questions, right, like I built up this library just interacting with people. I know all these answers kind of at the top of my head. Every so often I get a question that a client will ask, a participant will ask, and then like even I don't know the answer. And then
like
I will
stun you.
correct, and then I'll go back, I will research about it, and then like okay, I added this to my mental library of things I can say, like fun facts I can contribute during the class. So after 2 years of doing workshops, right, like we have compiled so big of a library that we cannot possibly say everything in 3 hours. I think that is one of the good side and bad side of kind of having such enthusiastic participants to work with, right? One of the things I always think about is the idea of self-selection. Okay.
Wait. Going back to that, what's the most outrageous thing that someone has asked you before?
I think people have asked me before quite crazy questions. I would say the most crazy questions would be the ones who are actually interested in getting their own workshop, and they start asking they literally start doing a price check of every single tool we use in class. So I think that gets a bit kind of overwhelming, because it's okay to answer one or two, that's fine, but in the middle of kind of another class where you're doing something else, they ask you, hey, this one is how much? Where can I buy this? This one is how much? Where should I get it from?
This is usually like in a group setting. It's not like an individual person.
No, it can be both. Both scenarios happen, but I've only really had one or two where every single item they ask, and then after they ask, they'll take a photo and then they'll write down the exact name. So it's like it's a bit distracting. I mean, we are always okay that you ask. I think we are always fine to answer questions like this. I think it's just when it interrupts the flow of the instruction, then it gets a bit disruptive, lor.
So if the person asks you after class, it's fine.
I don't even need to be after class, because when we do our instruction, right, it's always you introduce a tool, you describe how to use it, you demo, and then you let them use. If they ask me when they are working on their object,
or just after you have finished,
correct, after I have said everything I need to say, that's fine. But if they like interrupt me after I say like 2 words, like this is a pull saw, oh, how much is a pull saw? Then it's like I haven't even said what it's for, you know. So I really find it like challenging when you get interrupted, because you have a like train of thought. When that gets interrupted, it's very like you have to find yourself, you have to restart where you're supposed to talk again. So that happens lah, but not very often. Yeah. Are we going back to self-selection?
What is the self-selection again?
I think it's just a very kind of like advanced concept. I think because we are a small shop, right? We are a small class. Everybody who signs up for our class, they have to be self-selected. And when we say self-selected, we mean like they have to be interested enough to pay the admission price to join one of our workshops. So if they have already done that, that means that they have to be interested enough to drop like $40, $50, $60, $100 to join our class. If they are not even interested to put that amount of money, then they wouldn't be that interested in the first place. So everybody who comes in is interested. And that is, again, our point of privilege lah. We had one of the things that we are going to talk about in our general meeting, right? Our annual general meeting, which we will also share like in a podcast form sometime down the road. But
So
one of the
weird.
things we discuss as business partners is which areas to focus on next. And one of those areas are corporate workshops and kind of big classes. My concern has always been, right, how, again, going back to what we were saying earlier, how do you keep the enthusiasm level up in a large class? So far, we have been very lucky. The few 3 or 4 large classes we've had in 2024, they have all been very positive experiences. They have all been very enjoyable for both myself, my assistants, as well as the participants. So we have always been very lucky. But I think if we push more and more, we have to ask ourselves, right, how are we likely to run into cases where, you know, we don't get such enthusiastic people, and are we really prepared to manage these kind of classes? But that's something we'll talk a bit more when we reach our annual general meeting. So we will keep you informed how we are going to proceed with 2025.
But in those large classes that you have done, okay, so just to kind of share a bit. So we have done classes with, basically I would say all age groups. So from preschoolers, she's so cute, I have to say, to secondary school, to elderly people. Have we done, we haven't done like a corporate, like working class people, right? No, right? No, don't have.
No.
Can't think of anything.
We have not done between the age of 20 to 50.
Okay. Yeah, so like so 2024 have given us these opportunities to work with different people of different age groups.
Very extreme age groups.
Yeah, I would say very extreme, from like the very young to the very old. So within those groups, right, have you, because the group itself is quite big also, like maybe 10 to 20 people, but have you seen anyone that is just clearly not interested at all? Like, do you recall any such people stand out?
Okay, so from what I recall, I think in secondary school, so you would find, because for a secondary school class, right, they tend to be organized by the teacher. So it is not 100% given that every single person is interested. That being said, I think the secondary school experience I had was that most of the students were very, very shy. They had not seen the tools that we brought along before, and there will be a big group of very excited people, very loud people, very fun people, but then there will also be another group of quiet, very shy, very reserved kids. So what we have found, right, is that you need to learn how to manage these kind of quiet kids. So some kids, they like to be told one time, they like to be instructed once, and then they will do on their own. They will try on their own. They succeed, they fail. They will come and ask you, how come this didn't work? On the other hand, right, you also have another kind of kid, right, who actually secretly wants a lot of attention, but they are too shy to ask. So having to instruct these classes is really very much kind of push and pull between these different types of students. I think just learning and understanding a wider group of students, a wider group of workshop participants, that alone is kind of very, very helpful when you're doing this kind of main instructor role.
Then between the 3 age groups, which one will you say is your favorite to work with?
I really enjoyed working with the elderly. I really, really enjoyed it.
I somehow would think it would be a preschool somehow.
I think the preschoolers are fun, but they also present
Chaotic.
a higher risk.
Okay.
They also present a higher safety risk. So I remember, even though I had a lot of fun in the preschool class, they were all very cute, right? There was always this baseline level of anxiety
they cut
where,
themselves.
correct, if they cut themselves, they accidentally poke a hole somewhere, or it's that is always the underlying fear that runs throughout the entire class. For that class, we were very lucky. We had so this class of, I want to say, 15 to 20 students. They were all preschool, all 4-5-year-old. They had one main form teacher who was with us the whole time. So before the class started, we told them, oh, please split your students up into small groups first. So we will do it group by group. What happened after that, right, was because they had an open classroom concept, they had other smaller classes in that same kind of area, the same venue.
Oh, okay.
And then everybody, like including the teachers, right, they would be excited and interested and looking at what's going on.
Oh.
And then they ended up contributing to the class.
Oh.
They contributed to the class by kind of like teaching the kids what to do. They contributed by kind of like holding their hands, things like that. So it was a very, very fun, very positive experience.
So wholesome.
Yeah, it was very, very good. Like I feel like there's so much wholesome energy in this episode. Where we normally are not like this wholesome. Yeah. But I enjoyed it.
Going back. Okay.
I enjoyed it, but there was always still this underlying level of fear.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
But going back, you say like you most enjoyed working with the elderly.
Yes. So the elderly class was also one of the classes that Nicole attended. So she was there being my assistant for one of the days out of, I think, 4 or 5 days. So the elderly were good. I would say, right, if you had to try out as your first experience interacting with a large class, it's either going to be elderly or working adults, because you want your participants to have some level of independence. When you're talking about the students and we're talking about the preschoolers, there is this sense of like you need to oversee them, if not they'll be very chaotic. I think with the elderly, you don't really have that problem. The bigger problem you have is that some of them might be fast, some of them might be very, very slow. So that is a bigger problem. But that being said, the class that you attended, it was their 3rd or 4th class. So they were already familiar with the tools themselves, and all they were learning that day was just to assemble a different project, a new project. So it was a relatively smooth, calm class. But I've always found...
It was calming for you?
No, as in calm relative to their normal state. Or relative to first day.
Oh, is
because
it?
first classes,
like
right?
There was a bit of like chaos. I think because like, I was mostly like I was with this group of these few tables, and then they just keep asking me like, oh, so how can you help me to do this? Can you help me to do that? Then I'm like, I don't have time to go and see the other.
But then it's also your first time.
But I think also cause to be fair, the other tables I think they were fine, like, working independently. So I was mainly only helping like 3 people.
4 people, yeah.
Then like the rest of them I just like I don't really care about it. Or they only come to me if like, oh, it's like something stuck.
Correct.
But then in the end I still ask you like,
that's what I was talking about in terms of the independence, right? Like even though you were managing essentially 10 students each, we had 20 students in that class, so 10. Even though you're managing 10 students, you only really need to take care of 3 or 4 because the rest of them were independent enough. So that's the benefit of a more independent group of participants. I think like it wasn't coming for you because it was your first exposure. It was your first time.
Maybe.
Your first time interacting with such a large group. So it's like
that's true.
It can be a bit overwhelming.
Hard to believe that the first day was worse.
Oh, the first day is worse. The first day is very okay, so what I can recall from the first day, right, is they will be very curious about all the different tools. And because they have never used it before, right, they will be asking kind of really very, very basic things. So for example, we have a clamp. that has two different levels. So one is the release level, one is the squeeze, the clamping level. So when we say the first cast is very chaotic, it is because even simple things like that, they didn't know how to operate. So it was a bit challenging to have to go to each group that might be confused and help them out one by one. What I can say, right, that helps this is try to let the participants be independent. Because when you let them be independent, they will learn and they will actually help themselves in the future. So for the last few classes I had, the last few large classes I've had a number of different assistants. So I've had 1, 2, 3, including you, I've had 4 different assistants. Generally, our student-teacher ratio is about 10:1. So of the 4 assistants I've had, right, most of them was their first or second try only. And most of them have this
tendency.
Innate tendency, right, to take over projects, to over-assist a lot of projects. So that is something I always have to tell my assistants not to do so. I always have to warn them, like, give them the time, give them the space to try themselves, because we have catered enough time for them to learn. So if every time we take over, we take away their opportunity to learn it themselves. So it is something that I always have to kind of reinforce with my assistants, my teaching assistants, that if a participant asks you how to do or what to do or they don't know, you need to also be a bit more proactive and probe what their issue is. If in the case where they don't know what to do, then you remind them. You can tell them either explicitly what the next step is, or you can refer them to like the instruction sheet. Okay. Then on the other hand, right, you have people who know what to do, but they don't have the physical strength. Remember, we are talking about people like the elderly, right? So some of them they may have, they may know exactly what to do, but because they do not have a certain amount of strength to let's say cut or let's say drill, that can be a problem. So in those cases, we understand if you take over certain difficulties, but it is very much a case by case basis. You have to kind of like have that trial and error experience, right, to build up what people can and cannot do.
What if they keep asking you, just help me do, because that's what happened to me. Then like, because I have a soft spot for like old people. So like what happened was, like the 3 people that I was assisting, right, I think maybe 1 or 2 of them, they weren't sure what to do, like what to do next. So then I told them, you just look at the instructions, like what is the next step. But then they still tell me that like, I don't know, I don't understand. You help me do. Or like those that with no strength one, right? I think the ones with no strength, they know what to do. They just probably like, they spend too long sawing or something, and they really like,
they lost their stamina.
Correct, they're really running out of energy. So like for that, I just help them to finish. Or like those that they know to drill a certain spot, but then I think they are maybe scared to drill.
Yeah.
Then I just help them to do.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, I feel like I help them to do wrong. So I think some of me, I feel like I ruin the pieces.
Yeah. So I always find that like for this kind of students, right, like there are 2 scenarios. The first one, right, is that when they ask an instructor, it may not be you, maybe someone else. When they ask the instructor the first time, the instructor immediately took over. So they have learned to develop this dependency to say, if I don't know anything, I just ask you, you'll do. So that is an error on our part, right? We always try to correct each other not to do that. But there will be cases where participants come in and they immediately have a very kind of like helpless mentality. They have a kind of like
it's like brain turn off.
It's not so much brain turn off. It's the moment they encounter one problem, they are afraid to do everything else, and then they just give up. So those are people where we have to kind of we will probe bit by bit and see how much they know or how much they don't know. Yeah. So even for the participants who physically cannot do the things we ask them to do, they physically cannot cut, or they physically cannot drill, or they are afraid. We will tell them, okay, if you are afraid of drilling, never mind. You just help me mark the correct location to drill. And then you remind them how to use the pencil and how to use the combination square. You remind them how to use the different tools. So even if they cannot do all the steps, they should at least do step 1 to step 2. Then we will take over after that. But it is very, very important, right, that they do not develop this dependency kind of mindset. Because I find that if they do it like that, right, then what's the point of coming down to our workshop? We might as well just give them one of our sample pieces. So that's something I feel quite strongly about. And that's something that we will always remind our assistants.
Okay, so we have said that we do workshops, and then we also do like we also take in furniture orders. So do you see a difference between these two types of customers? Like people who maybe want to make something themselves versus someone who just tell you, okay, can you make this for me?
Yeah, there is definitely a very huge kind of difference between workshop customers and furniture customers. So maybe just to break down our different types of workshops, right? So we have what we call kind of in-house or standard workshops, which are workshops that you might find yourself participating with strangers who sign up on the same day. So those are your serving board, your memory box, your side tables. Those are on the website. You can see photos of other customers who have done it. We also have very large classes. Those tend to be external because our workshop can only cater 4 people. So anything larger than 4 people tends to be off-site. Okay, which is what we were mostly talking about when we talk about the children, the elderly, preschool. Yeah. And then thirdly, we also have custom workshops. So custom workshops refer to anybody who have a certain piece of furniture or certain object that they wish to build and they want to build themselves. We Agri company, we also allow we also provide training and services to help these people make objects themselves.
And also, they are not necessarily always furniture pieces. Like
they are not always furniture pieces.
We have received things that are like actually
small objects. Correct.
Small objects, like a watch holder, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, but primarily, it is majority furniture. Okay. So I want to differentiate that, right? So kind of custom furniture workshops from furniture orders. Okay. So when we say furniture orders, right, we are talking about people who look at a dining table that we have and say, oh, we want to order this dining table. Or they look at some other object that they have, or they find a photo on Pinterest or Instagram, and they ask us, can we do something like that? So those are furniture order customers. Okay? So I think there is a huge kind of difference between workshop and furniture customers, because any kind of workshop customers, right, even if they're making their own furniture, they are much more forgiving of their own mistakes. Okay, so we call ourselves Agri company, right, because we know that anybody working with wood are bound to make mistakes that do not align with their imaginary vision. Okay, so sometimes people will see like, oh, why is my table 89.9 degrees instead of 90 degrees? We are not robots, we are not machines, right? We will never be able to perfectly replicate this. So that's something that in a workshop we can convey this idea to them. In a workshop they can experience this firsthand when they are cutting or sawing or sanding, right? So as a result, right, regardless of the outcome of their furniture piece or their workshop piece, they will always be very happy with it because they know how they did it. They know kind of like the raw character that their own handmade nature brings this piece. On the other hand, right, when you talk about a furniture customer, right, these people can have very, very exacting standards. So regardless of kind of like the budget or the price range of these kind of customers, they will always expect a very, very high degree of quality. Perfection. And that is something that some products we can do because they are like standard straight lines or standard shapes. But we cannot do it for everything, especially things that require high precision. For wood itself, right, wood actually has some level of movement because it's a natural material. So it's still absorbing moisture from the air and expanding and contracting up and down. So even wood without touching it has a natural 0.1 mm degree of change before we touch it. This is something that sometimes is a bit hard to convey to customers.
Yeah, I think because maybe there are some people that I think they can understand that, because of Singapore's humidity, they're like, wood will absorb moisture. But I think maybe some people, they feel like you always stay straight. Maybe also, I wonder, is it because also the types of furniture that they have?
Yeah.
Like if they used to have like cabinets that look wooden, that look like real wood cabinets, right? Then I feel like those cabinets, they won't ever warp. They won't ever change shape. So I think maybe for that they may think that, why is the wood changing shape?
Yeah.
Like my cabinet doesn't change shape.
Another thing that's very, very hard to convey, right, is color. That's also another thing that's very hard to convey, because wood doesn't come in one consistent color.
Even if it's the same species.
Even if it's coming from the same tree, there is a gradation of color in one tree trunk.
Yeah.
So that is something that we also struggle to convey. And what complicates the problem even more, right, is that the color you see now will not be the same as the color after it is polished, after it is finished. And it will not be the same as the color after 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. Because all the materials that we use, right, as far as we can, we try to use very natural material. And as a result, things do kind of evolve over time and kind of change with the elements over time. The same, like we also own the same material, right? Whether it's plywood, an engineered material, or it's solid wood, a natural material, they will also change color over time. And that is something that sometimes is a bit hard to convey to people also. So between furniture and workshop customers, they see their own object coming to life. They will appreciate whatever kind of the final quality is. Okay? So even if they make a mistake, even if they screw up somewhere that they are very unhappy with, because we are there to help them, guide them along, we are able to actually teach them, okay, now that you have made this mistake, how do you hide this mistake? The most important mark of a good woodworker, right, is always that, not that they can cut 4 times perfectly, is that they just need to cut 1 time perfectly and then know how to hide the other 3. That is the most important skill in woodworking.
It's so weird though. Because it's such a weird concept.
No, the thing is, right, like if you ever take apart your furniture, whatever kind of furniture, is IKEA or is Courts or any kind of Gray and Sanders kind of furniture, right? If you take apart, you can see kind of all the small mistakes that accumulate. It's because they know how to put it somewhere that people cannot see. That is a mark of a good woodwork.
By the way, we're not coming after those brands that you mentioned.
We just want to give you a reference point. How about you? Have you come across any nice customers in your experience?
I think the one that stands out to me was the time when I was helping you doing the workshop with the Lion Befriender. So the one that I mentioned just now about working with the elderly. So after we have finished our the class, right, and we're packing up, a lot of the elderly, they were helping us to pack up as well, to keep all the equipment, keep all the table. And then that was something that I keep telling them, no, you just put it there, we'll clean it, we'll pack up ourselves, because we have no idea if afterwards they have anything on as well. We don't want to hold them back.
So to set the scene, right, so we were in an open area, a kind of void deck feeling kind of area, sheltered. We had 11 tables spread out over this very large space, and each of the tables will have a set of tools. So you have your drills, your saws, your screwdriver, blah blah. So so the elderly, right, once they are done with their piece, and the majority is done with their piece, they will actually automatically, without us telling them to do so, they will actually bring all their tools to the front. They will actually help to clean up. They will dust off their table. They will some
sweep
will
the floor.
Some will, yeah, correct. Some will go so far as to find the broom from the original kind of the center, the aging center, come out and sweep the floor on our behalf. And I think we will always be very grateful for them, because it really takes a load off of our
It helps
plate.
us like finish up faster.
It helps us
as well.
organize and count things a lot faster. Sometimes it goes so fast that we lose track of things that we are supposed to keep count of, where we keep in back in the center. Because when they keep, they don't really know exactly where to put. Sometimes they will put in like different boxes, and then because they don't tell you, they just like take the box and like, oh, I will bring this in first. I'll bring this in first.
Okay.
And then you turn around, there's nothing left at your table.
Gone.
Yeah, like 3 out of 4 boxes are gone. Then suddenly you look at the one person you're helping. Then they look at you. They're like nobody knows what's going on. But somehow the area is already clean. So that was nice, but also kind of like a bit terrifying.
If you were to lose something, and then you don't know where it is.
Yeah. But the participants we have always been so nice. The ones that we've had repeat visits, they actually offer us some gifts. We've had people bring us food, from the from the nearby like fun fair. They will bring us like some nice food. It really reminds you of like the kampong spirit that the whole community has, and it's such a kind of like heartwarming experience for us.
Actually, I'm quite surprised that time when you went back down to the elderly center to kind of like discuss future contracts. Then when you came back, you told me that they still remember who you are. I was quite surprised they still remember. Then the other thing also, when like one of the assistants saw one of the participants outside, like in another, like totally in another place, and then like the participant could still recognize the assistant.
They met somewhere in the I think Singapore General Hospital. The workplace that we were working at, right, is Clementi. But somehow they met. They crossed paths in the Singapore General Hospital, which is quite a distance away. And they recognized each other. Like they were a bit confused. They was like, where have I seen you before?
You look very familiar.
But somehow they managed to kind of work it out and like, okay, we are
we met at
we met at a woodworking workshop.
Like, you're the assistant. So that was like quite nice, I would say.
We've also had like very, very nice clients. They recommended us kind of on their own. So those have always been very, very helpful, kind of like for the business in general. It's always lovely to hear, because the best feedback you can hear from your clients, right, are always that they enjoy your services so much, they want their friends and family and colleagues to enjoy the same services. So that is always another kind of very, very nice news to receive. So that wraps up kind of the nice customers episode. Before we go, like every other week, we would like to give our lovely listeners some unsolicited advice. Okay, so for this week's unsolicited advice, Glennard, myself, I will be giving you. So for all our lovely listeners who will be going to Johor Bahru during the Chinese New Year season, the Valentine's Day season, any long weekends, do take note, the queue can go up to 3 hours. Thank you for listening to the Ugly Wood Company podcast. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode. In the meantime, if you're interested in booking our services, please go to our website at www.uglywoodcompany.com and use the coupon code UWC Podcast for 10% off. That's UWC PODCAST. Links in the description. Till next week.
Lame, your advice.